Hi everyone. Welcome. You're watching Conversations with Nia. I'm your host, Nia Black Amuze, and I am so nervous but excited for today's conversation. Okay, we're going to be talking about toxic masculinity and the Black culture. This is like a Black men tell all. So I'm hoping that we can have a community conversation, right? So basically, this topic has been just on my mind, and it means so much to me because for the first time, I think in 2018, I watched a roundtable conversation with Justin Baldoni, and he was talking about masculinity. And it really opened my eyes to this idea of toxic masculinity and how that really harms men. So all these cultural norms that we attach to the idea and the term masculinity, so that really opened my eyes, and I've always wanted to have a conversation about it. And today is the day. We're going to be unpacking all of this. We're going to be talking about it. I have some powerful men in the house. Hey, look at them. Powerful Black men representing. So panelists, go ahead, introduce yourself, then we can get this conversation going.
Going to start this off right, obviously, with my name is Toby. Born in Houston, raised in Chicago. I don't know what else you want to know, but I'm looking forward to having this conversation and being able to share my experiences with y'all.
Awesome.
Edward J. Davis, born and raised in Houston, Third Ward area. 2021 PhD candidate in strategic leadership and business management. So I have a mentorship program as well that I mentor young men and women, specifically around leadership and rites of passage. And so I think I have a lot to kind of contribute to the discussion. So I'm looking forward to it.
Nice. Welcome, Edward.
Hey, how's everybody doing? My name is Joe. I'm originally from the Democratic Republic of Congo, but I've been here for 20 years now, so this is home. I currently work as an account executive for an insurance company. I also do mentoring for young individual, mostly male, young male, mostly in a high school and middle school age range. So I deal with a lot of toxic masculinity type of. But anyways, I have a very small, like I was a limited background in mentorship and community service. So I'm hoping I can be an asset to this discussion. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Welcome, Joe.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Joshua Dada here. I am a entrepreneur, community activist, and thought leader. I love to, just help and inspire people wherever I can. And so I'm looking forward to hopefully adding value to the conversation today.
Hey, Joshua. Thank you.
I'm Puni Fontenot, originally from Sugarland, Texas. Now reside out in the beautiful countryside. Have a little bit of acres I live on. Nice out here. Anyways, I see a lot of what's going on in just today's society across the United States of basically the how men and masculinity is not valued anymore. It's actually a negative thing. So I believe I have a lot to provide as far as my opinion on this quote unquote toxic masculinity.
Okay. Welcome, Puni.
Thank you.
Shola?
Yeah, I'm Sola. Of course, you'll hear her say Shola, which is the actual right way to pronounce my name. I was actually born in Chicago, but raised in Houston. So opposite of Toby. And I'm a man's man. I work electrician. I'm an electrician. I work in, construction and stuff like that. So I'm a man's man. And so, yeah, it's interesting to hear about some of the stereotypes and how it's become a discussion. So I definitely feel privileged to be on this panel with y'all. And let's sort some stuff out and see what we come up with.
All right. Welcome, guys. Super, super honored and excited to have you guys. So let's get right into it. I know everyone is waiting. We have actually a lot of people join in watching right now, which is really good. So before I go ahead, if you're watching, and panelists, please, if you're my friend on Facebook, go ahead and share this so that we can have a community conversation, right? Just look on your phone right now, go ahead on Facebook and share this. You can delete afterwards, but for now, so many people can chime in and join in. I'm super excited. I think I've said that 1,000 times already. So my first question to you guys, before I go into the actual question, I want to say, so I guess a little story. So I have a nonprofit, many of you guys know, it's called Glow Up Africa. And I was working with this guy who's based in Nigeria. He's actually a friend of mine, and I'm not going to say his name. So we were working together, and the plan for 2020 was to work with schools, high schools, secondary schools in Nigeria. And so I told him, I said, please, can you scout for really good secondary schools to work with in Nigeria so we can help build libraries and help the students? And so he went, after like a couple of days, he came back to me. He said, Nia, I found a young girl that you can work with. Because as a guy, I don't feel comfortable working for you and saying a girl sent me to do ABC. So I found a really young girl for you to work with. And I was like, what? What? So with that, this is a perfect segue to my first question, you guys. What is masculinity? Like, let's break it down. Anyone can take this. What is masculinity? They're smiling.
Well,
Oh,
I guess
I'll
it depends.
say,
Oh, go ahead. Sir.
go ahead. Big
No,
guy.
go ahead.
I'll say, I mean, by definition, it's just any qualities that is characterized as a male or boy characteristic. It's really something that's defined by society. To be honest, it's not it doesn't have any set definition. We define what masculinity is, and in terms of what we consider the norm for a male, and that's kind of the gist behind it. Now, as we get in depth about what's toxic and what's not, then maybe we can elaborate a little bit more. But I think just from a surface level, that's a good way to start. It's what we consider to be the norm for male.
Okay. Puni, you want to add to that? Do you agree or you have a different opinion?
No, I totally agree. Of course, it's going to be up to individuals really what they consider masculine. Because nowadays with all the transgender stuff and all that kind of stuff, masculinity is not popular. It's not. That's why I believe they throw toxic in front of it, because they want to make masculinity be a bad thing.
Interesting.
And because I never hear toxic femininity. They want to put toxic in front of masculinity because they know masculinity is typically, well, that belongs to a man. And they want to get rid of masculinity. You see it all over TV. It's all over the movies. It's everywhere. It's in schools. It's everywhere. And that's why when I had the chance to get on here, I really wanted to get on here because it's a sad day when it's not good or acceptable to be masculine these days.
Okay, Puni coming for the people. Who agrees with Puni? Anyone has a different opinion? I feel like Toby, you want to go ahead and take that? Okay.
So what I want to say is kind of sort of I'm kind of sort of 50-50 on this, right? Because masculinity isn't necessarily supposed to be seen as a bad thing, but the reason why I think personally it's so common, right, for the word toxic to be put in front of masculinity is because of how society has become built on this idea of patriarchy. And that has been toxic to women, right? So that aspect of what's going on in our society that has been going on for not even just years, for decades, right? You know, that's an aspect of what society has allowed to continue to happen, which I feel made it difficult or toxic to people that are not men, if that makes sense, right? So there are aspects of patriarchy that is seen as, okay, you know what, this is because we're a man, we get to do this. But that's under the umbrella of patriarchy, which is kind of sort of a different, it's not necessarily a different topic, but it's kind of a reason why it's so easy to so toxic in front of masculinity, in my opinion.
Okay. So Joshua, I want to hear from you. I feel like should I give you more time?
No, you know, I mean, I'm honestly a little. I guess I can say I'm torn too, because I feel like masculinity is one thing, and then toxic masculinity. At least I came into this conversation thinking that, you know, I agree with Pooney that masculinity is a great thing, and we need more of it, and we need society needs to stop trying to shun it and people are running away from the idea of masculinity. I think it's something that we absolutely, undoubtedly need as a society, especially our young boys growing up in the climate that we're in right now. But I also think toxic masculinity is a completely separate thing. Whereas, you know, you have men who are showing the younger generation how to be misogynist and treating women like they're less than. I think that's all toxic masculinity. But I just want to go on record saying I believe they're two separate things, and you can be masculine without being toxic.
Okay. Shola, you wanna go ahead and comment?
Absolutely. So masculinity, when I took time to think about it, to me it's like the creative force that males inherit from their fathers. And when I say fathers, it doesn't necessarily mean they're their immediate dad, but it could be from generations, you know, passed down. You know, your great grandfather was working steel, you know, so on and so forth. And he was a hard man. He was a hard working man. And it just helps you to be able to identify as a man. You know, having manhood, it helps you link with the men that came before you. You know, and so that's masculinity. You can see how it enables you to build and then to also preserve what you build, which is important because masculinity is there to fix things. You know, if things that's what a masculine person does. Now, doesn't mean they fix everything, but we're known to fix things and build things and preserve things, you know, as a man. So that's what.
Okay, this is interesting. This is not what I expected, but that's okay. I'll take it. Edward, Edward, I want to hear from you.
I did have.
What is it exactly that? What is it exactly that you're looking for?
No, you know what? I did not expect you guys to. And you know what? Hey, I'm not representing all the ladies. You guys that are watching, please. I see some comments coming in right now. You guys, what is your definition of masculinity? Right? Comment so we can know. But I think I was not expecting the separation and to differentiate between toxic masculinity and just masculinity, right? So, but forgive me, that's just from my perspective. Let me hear what you have to say now, and I'll add to.
No, I mean, they've said everything that really needs to be said for the most part. Again, there definitely has to be a distinction because you can't toxicify all of masculinity. That's to me that's almost genocide, right? To get rid of the yin to the yang or vice versa. And so masculinity brings balance. God gave us masculinity. He gave men extra, testosterone and women extra estrogen for a reason. And it's not that it made men better than women. It made us equal but different. And that means that our masculinity has a purpose. And so we can't disqualify it. We have to properly define it. And so that's what this conversation is about, properly defining masculinity versus what for me personally, I just feel like it's not so much masculinity that's the problem. It's the culture itself. We have a lot of the culture itself is toxic, and it's a lot of dynamics that we can trace to the reasons and the causes for that. But it's mainly because we have allowed other people to control the narrative. We don't define for ourselves what it is to be a man, what it is to be a woman. We've allowed those outside of ourselves to dictate and control that narrative. And until we gain control of it ourselves and redefine it, then I feel much that we do as a people outside of just masculinity is toxic and self-defeating.
You know, I love what you say about like what the society has kind of coined it to be, if I'm not mistaken, that's what you said. But I want to ask this to everyone on the panel. Don't we think that those descriptors that are associated with masculinity is harmful? So when people say things like, you're not man enough, be a man, right? Or, and I think I sent that in the question as well, like man up, don't be like a girl. Isn't that also part of masculinity, and isn't that harmful to men?
I'll take that real quick. Is it harmful to men? It depends the kind of man that they want to be. So if a child wants to grow up and not be all that he could be as a male, right? As a man, then it could be harmful to him because he wants to go a different direction. But to the man, but to that kid that's looking up to, let's say Joe Henry is his uncle, and then Mitch is his dad, and these are manly men, and they see that he looks up to him, and he's going kind of like, you're acting a little bit more like your sister than your brother, and so he corrects him. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not harmful. He's getting him on path.
So you don't think that's disrespectful to the woman?
How?
Just, oh, don't act like a girl. That's not. Oh, okay. You know what? Let someone else take it on. Go on. I'm just gonna listen. That's not one-sided now.
Okay.
No, that's
so I'll jump in here. Okay, I'll jump in here. So I'll be honest with you. At first, I didn't see how it was disrespectful to women, but now I'm in a place where I definitely understand. It's like, what are you saying? Like, are you saying women are the weaker vessel, or all these other things, which some could go on to try to prove that. But I do believe that this is what I believe about those type of statements. I believe that it's when someone says that, and there's no knock to anyone because I'm guilty of it too. I have a son. When I say that, I'm not really trying to say man up or don't be a girl. I'm trying to say something else actually, and I need to find the right wording as a male to convey to my son, whether I'm saying have more fortitude or, have more discipline or whatever that is. And so what we do is we take these shortcuts and we automatically assume that like all men have discipline and fortitude and think, in a certain way. And so I do agree that we have to find a way to encourage our boys to be more quote unquote masculine and go after things and because you got to have fortitude as a man who plans to protect, provide, and prepare things for his family. So I don't want you out here too weak to create and to provide for yourself. Or when you get in the real world, you can't handle some of the things that I've had to handle, not only as a man, but also as a black man, in this world. So I need you to understand at this young age, even if you're 6 years old, life is going to throw you blows and you need to get back up. But right now it comes out as don't be a girl, like, or stop acting like a girl. And so I'm like, again, I think we find a better ways to say the things that we're trying to pull out of our sons and our friends and our brothers, because somewhere in that statement, we are insinuating that a woman couldn't handle this and you're acting like a woman. And that's why I'm saying, don't be like a woman. You know what I mean? So it took me some time to grow to that. I'll be honest.
Well, thank you, Joshua. Who else has any add-ons if I go through comments?
Well, why did it take you some time to grow to that? As far as, saying,
great question. So, I mean, I can speak for myself. I was born in the hood, right? And I'm not saying, and not even just the hood, because I think there are also, like, I'm also Nigerian. If you're Nigerian, the hammer comes down on you real hard on a lot of things. So when you come up in a culture and you don't have any outside awareness of what other ways to do it, you just adapt the way you were raised. And in the hood, it was like, man up, like, do what you got to do. You know what I'm saying? Don't be no punk. And I'm like, okay, I adapted those values and they definitely helped me because I believe that God gave me enough wisdom to take in what they were saying, interpret it, and then apply it in a way that what they're saying is don't give up, be strong, use your fortitude. That's what they're saying. But now, if I say that and if we get real, the climate we're in, we all know that like homosexuality is such a bigger thing now. And we have kids who are 3-4 years old who are exhibiting signs of a woman and, or female femininity. Sorry about that. That was another one of those statements. So they're exhibiting a lot of femininity. If I say man up, what I'm telling you in a way is to don't act like who you are. Don't be yourself. Be this. Like, you know what I'm saying? Don't be how you are naturally are growing to be. Now, I do believe that the more time that he spends around his father or some male, that he will pick up some things. But if naturally inside of him that he's just going down this
Joshua,
path,
did
and
you?
yeah, I'm talking about. I know some young kids, and I'm like, man, like I don't know how this is happening, but it's happening. I'm not going to force you to try to be something that you're not, but I will try to guide you to become the best of what you can become or who you
But
are.
do you think homosexuality is running rampant because today most kids, or I would say a large majority of them, are raised by women?
Absolutely, undoubtedly, and also I think it has something to do with TV and agendas, and some other stuff going on. I think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, because even on TV, dad is looked at as, well, basically a simp, and mom is kind of looked at as the head of the household. She's a leader. She makes the decisions. Well, and dad's just kind of you know, a money provider. He doesn't
Right.
really have any control. He doesn't really have any say. So, yeah, he's just kind of in the background. He's the simp. He is um, not someone of authority.
Right.
You know
I
what?
think.
I,
No, go
Sorry,
ahead, Joshua, and then I want to go to
And
Joe.
I'm gonna throw this in
So
there. A
hold on,
lot
let
of this
Joshua finish and then you.
we know this, but a lot of this comes from it's a hard conversation, especially for Black Americans. A lot of it comes from slavery, just disproportionately arresting Black men, putting them in jail, kids being raised by single mothers. But to your point, to where you're getting to is that's something that we have to deal with in the home the best that we can do and kind of move forward what we have. And the more we get quality Black men, hopefully we can reverse that. But some of these kids some of these kids are truly, because of what we've done over the last couple of decades, some of these kids are truly being coming out a certain way, and they feel very strongly about who they are, and they know what they want. And when you try to change, if my dad tried to make me something other than what I'm growing to be, I'm going to resent him, and it's going to be even harder for you to get through to me with anything. So that's my
But
thought
see,
on it.
Okay.
I don't believe that. Like, I'm sorry.
Can I come back to you? I just want to go to Joe. So Joe has a
Yes,
comment.
yes.
I want to hear what Joe has to say. We'll come back to you, Queenie. Joe.
Okay.
no problem, man. Appreciate it. I think this is why it's very important. I think somebody mentioned we need to define what we consider masculinity and toxic masculinity, because we're going to go way over the place. Because I agree with a lot of what is being said. I think the issue is that there's always some type of trouble when when you're trying to figure out the difference between what something is and what something has become, if that makes sense. And so here we are. There used to be a time where everybody understood what masculinity meant, and now, since the roles are changing, we're kind of getting into this whole confusion. And so there was a time where we can say, be a man, and everybody understood what be a man mean. Mom can tell you, hey, man up, and everybody knew what man up mean, and there was no negative connotation behind it. Everybody knew exactly what a man
Exactly.
mean. Now we've come into this world to where we've come into this mentality to where I want to decide when being a man is a good or a bad thing. So you can see a woman said, hey, I want my man to man up. I want it to be more of a man. Or you're not being a man, you're not taking care of your family. But that's viewed as, okay, that's being a man, but it's coming from her. But then in other times, if somebody said be a man, we're like, oh, that's a negative. What are you saying? Women aren't being, wow, women can't be, can't protect themselves. No, everybody's picking and choosing when they like the term and when they don't like the term. And that's what the issue, that's really what the issue is. And that's what we're trying to describe, because be a man can be toxic at times for even male themselves, and be a man cannot be toxic for even male themselves. But that's why it goes back to the definition of what's masculinity and what's quote unquote toxic masculinity, because and by nature, masculinity, in my opinion, is a good thing.
Okay.
Everything that you overdo becomes a bad thing.
Yeah.
You drink too much water, it becomes bad. You eat too much, it becomes bad. And he's overdoing it, that makes it negative. But by nature, I do not think, if somebody was going to tell me be a man, that means they're telling me handle your business, take care of it, you got it. That's not the perception. That I'm not getting a perception that I'm not even thinking, oh, does that mean mom can't do what I can do? Not at all. I know what my mom is able to do. Right now, if my mom tells me be a man, she means that she needs me to step it up, because there's more to me. So that's
Right.
once we differentiate the two terms between masculinity and what what happens when you add toxic to it, then I think we will know what route to take, if that makes sense.
Well said, Joe. Let me just read some comments, and I think some other people have add-ons. Read some comment, I'll come back to you guys. And if you want to respond to the comments, that's fine. So we have a comment from Real Life Houston, Texas Living. Said most definitely a difference between toxic masculinity and masculinity. Without a distinction, we are lumping masculinity into something negative. Is all femininity negative? Good question. No. Okay, one more comment. So this is from Angeli Nsenga. Masculinity, as with blackness, as with any term that seeks to define one being, is not monolithic. There is no singular definition. I have more comments, sorry guys, but these are good. So Verdell says masculinity standard characteristics of a male who set the standards of this characteristic. Doesn't patriarchy influence toxic masculinity? Okay, I can see that. And then back to Angeli. I don't believe Black men have had the opportunity to explore and self-define what being a man means to them. Ooh, is it a personalized definition? All right, so some comments, and if you guys want to just add on or respond to what Joe said, the floor is open. Toby, you wanna? Okay, take it.
Okay, so you might have to bring up what was the first or second question that came up, because I really wanted to address that.
This one?
Yes. So that one. First thing first is like obviously we've already said multiple times that there's a difference, right? But I don't want to speak about femininity much because guess what? I'm a man. We're talking about masculinity today. we're talking about femininity, we'll talk about it, but for today, we're talking about masculinity, right? But the next comment said something about, men don't necessarily have the ability to self-define it. Men, we actually do over time, depending on what our environment. Because think about anybody will tell you we're a product of our environment, right? If you're around strong, positive men, what's going to happen? More than likely, you're going to soak those type of attributes and characteristics up, right? But if you're in a toxic environment, guess what's going to happen? For example, my good man said he grew up in the hood, and a lot of the stuff that happened in his environment, he soaked up. But guess what? That helped him to survive. You have to be able to adapt to your environment, right? So, for example, my good man Puni here, we're in Texas, right? Certain states have different, like, mind you, he's fully armed, as you can see. But guess what? That's a product of his environment. He has to make sure that him and his household is safe, right? But that's his definition. That's part of his definition, making sure that his household is safe, right? There's nothing wrong in that. There's nothing wrong in or toxic in that. However, whenever it comes to a definition or an understanding where this masculinity is oppressing someone of a different background or someone of a different gender, then it becomes an issue. But in what is he doing? He's protecting his house. He's protecting himself. He's not oppressing anybody. He's not offending anybody. You know what I mean? So there's a level of perception that comes into this. But I'm gonna leave that part open for somebody else to reiterate on.
Could I just ask this before someone else takes this on? So I don't know if Joshua, Joe, you talked about this, but Joshua, you talked about how you grew up in that environment where people would say, be a man. Or if you say that to your son, you're not necessarily saying, putting down women. It's just what you're used to. You're telling him to be a better person. So then should we use a different definition then? Should we use a different description? Should we use a different method?
So my thing is, and again, it's so easy to forget this, but we as human are evolutionary beings. And so what was good in the 90s might not be that good now that we are a little more wise about how we're going about humanity. And just like, driving cars, everybody's trying to figure out how to ride electric cars now because we know that it's affecting the earth. So what seemed like the greatest idea then might not be the greatest idea now. So back to Joe's point, if my mom or somebody around me tell me be a man, I know exactly what it means. I can interpret it and I'm like, I need to boss up. Like I need to do what I need to do and handle it. But we just happen to have evolved now where there's enough words to say that without putting down anybody else when saying that, right? And quite frankly, it's easy for us to ignore the cries of women if they say, well, that's offensive to us, but how much can you create strength for somebody else without necessarily affecting somebody else? I think that's a more effective way. If I can build you up without necessarily and even though we're not intentionally doing it, tearing somebody else down, I think that's a greater accomplishment than to have to let you know, don't be like this, in order to get my point across. If I could just say, be this and get my point across, I think I did a more effective job. And that's, again, my opinion of things.
Okay. Well said. I want to hear from Edward, Puni, and Shala. I haven't heard from you guys. What are you guys thinking about all of this?
Well, yeah. I think
go ahead, Puni. Go ahead.
Okay, appreciate it. I think be a man, be man up. That's all about when it's convenient for women or for some men to just kind of put down another man. It's typically the only time I've ever heard it, especially from women, more so women.
Right.
I personally don't get it. Man up. Huh?
I'm like, really though, from women?
More so from women, yeah, because it's like when it comes to maybe opening the door for my girlfriend, or being sweet, or maybe Valentine's or something like that. Why don't you be a man? Why don't you man up? Open my door. Well, when it's convenient for them to use that, then yes. But any other time, it's, why don't you be more sweet? Why don't you be, and they don't want to say feminine, but it's almost kind of what they want to say. And I personally can't do that. Like Sola said, I'm a man's man all the time. And it may not be, you may not like it all the time.
It is what it is. Shola, I want to hear from you. What sentiments do you have about all of it?
No, absolutely. See, to me, everything I try to make as simple as possible. I look at nature. What's natural? If I was on this panel and I looked exactly like you look, for you, everything looks natural. You're a female. But if I did that, it does not look natural. And I'm just talking about the simple, basic, what's natural. For me to have a deeper voice than you is natural. If I sounded like you, it will not be natural. So it's not so much that we need to define this thing. It's already defined. It's simple stuff, right? Okay. So if I tell a young man, listen, do not act like a girl, it's because I'm looking at him and he's not a girl. And if I look at a girl, I can automatically see if she's being true to her gender. I can see it. Everybody can see it. But now all of a sudden we're saying, well, we shouldn't have these defined things. Because guess what? Those defined things, nature comes from God. And so we're trying to pull away from things that God had already said is simple stuff. If a bird was swimming, and I'm not talking about like a duck, but you know what I mean? Like a bird that's supposed to be flying is swimming everywhere. And a fish, even though there's some flying fish, was flying in the air, we would say that's not natural. We would say that because we understand these things. But because women are becoming so strong, and y'all are actually becoming a lot more masculine in the way that y'all are, that women are demanding this and demanding that and saying, you need to sit down, and getting offended, right? Having an ego to be offended by saying that a woman is not stronger than a man. Even if we were to put 1,000 men against 1,000 women, we all arm wrestled. How much money would you put that there'll be more women to win than the men? How much money? So this is just real simple, real basic stuff. What's happening is that women are way more clever than men. And I'll be the first to say that. It's not even close. More clever than men. And so we're getting pulled out of and kind of sucked out of our masculinity so that so that things are more level, and then we're going to get conquered. That's what's going to end up happening. This is the reason why I have to maintain my stance and to tell men, hey, stop that. Stop running away from things that offend people. It's okay to offend people, right? You're not trying to hurt them. You're not trying to end their life. It's just there's a truth that you're living by, and your truth. It's just your truth. I'm not going around telling everybody, hey, you should think like I think. Okay. my truth, if it offends someone, I can't stop it. Like Puni said, I'm not going to stop just because it offends. I will say that probably later today, if I see my nephew not doing something that is supposed to be like manly and what's going to help him to be a man. And it's really just preparation. I don't want you to think that I'm saying, oh, don't be a girl because girls can't do anything. Girls can do a lot. Mm-hmm. But I need to prepare you for things that are going to get very, very difficult in your life. I'm telling you, young man.
So, Shola, I want to ask the panel this then. Do we all agree then that we should just continue using that phrase, be a man?
Absolutely.
We all agree that
well, I'm going to say this. So again, the problem is that we're allowing those outside of ourselves to define for us these gender roles and these realities, and that's when it becomes dangerous. Dr. Naim Akbar once said that we are born male, female. We become boys and girls, and then we have to be taught to be men and women. We have to figure out who's doing the teaching, who's teaching us and our children what it means to be a man and what masculinity and femininity is. And it just seems to me, not seems, it just, the reality is those outside of ourselves have a different agenda. And there is a real big agenda to really feminize the black male. You can see it from the skinny jeans to, I mean, they even got some rappers bold enough to wear dresses now and heels. But there's an all-out effort to feminize the black male, and that's an agenda that's very deliberate. And so we can't be afraid, like we just said, we can't be afraid to offend and to stand up for who we are and how God made us. So going back to what we said earlier, if I say man up, to me that again, we clearly have been designed a certain way. Men naturally have more muscle mass than women. If there's a situation where we're telling a person to be stronger, especially a young man, then manning up is kind of like the word we use to say, be a man, use your strength. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So what I'm saying at the end of the day really is that we just have to be careful whose agenda we push, right? Whose causes that we champion, because those are not always in our best interests.
Okay, Joshua, you want to say something?
Yeah. So I agree with like 90% of what he said just now. But the reason why, I just want to be clear that I'm advocating for. I'm saying we still get the same message across, but we find better ways to say it, because it's crazy to think that women, I mean, all men are stronger. I mean, men are naturally stronger than women. Yes, physically. But I know some women who has like mental fortitude, especially in this day and age, that will just like shatter a lot of what these dudes doing. Like dudes be, especially because they ain't been raised with no fathers, like we saying. Like a lot of these dudes just don't have what it take to like accomplish something, start something and accomplish it. And what's happening is, unfortunately, women are doing it. And again, it goes back to that agenda. But I'm just proving the point as to why we can't just say that men, if we're talking about physically, yes, but we can't just say that men are stronger or have more strength than women, because a lot of women have the type of strength that we're trying to figure out. Like we're trying to figure out. And so, but I agree again. Do I say man up? Like, I'm guilty of saying man up, but I'm also guilty of trying to find better ways to say it, because if you think about it, if you want to take it, and I honestly believe it came down to the best thing that we knew how to say at the time, and it became culture. But if you think about like, not to go off topic, but if you think about like Shaolin monks, Buddhist monks, people who practice like all these martial arts that require a high level of strength, they don't say man up. They have other terminology that we've already been given to get the point across. And so, get it? I'm a part of the culture. I've been told man up 1,000 times, and I promise you, I probably told my son 1,000 times, like, yo, matter of fact, sometimes, and I'm telling myself right now, my son's name is Alan. And so sometimes he do something, I'll be like, bro, you acting like Alicia, not Alan. And my name Joshua, he'd be like, yo, you being Joe Alicia. And I'd be like, chill out. We know what we're saying, but at the same time, we're not necessarily putting down women. We're just saying like, yo, you acting like something that you're not. I know you are this, so do that. And so, but I need to find, I promise you, I'm happy to be on this panel because I've been doing the work around it a lot lately with my podcast. I've been talking to a lot of women, and I'm realizing like, oh, okay, I see how y'all feeling, and I'm gonna do my best to use wording that still get my point across, but at the same time, I'm not necessarily offending, especially my sisters. Like I care about all women, but definitely my sisters. Like I'm trying not to disrespect y'all or put y'all down.
Right.
And to be
So let me add clarity
okay, Edward.
real quick, because I agree with everything he's saying as well. So the clarity is, when I say men are naturally stronger, that's exactly what I mean physically. I'm talking about the reality that when we define masculinity, God designed us a certain way. Muscle mass,
Right.
we are the strongest species.
For sure.
Women are the softer species, and so we really we use those words to kind of define when you're acting soft or when you're acting hard.
Right,
But I guess the problem the problem I'm having is why do women perceive being soft as offensive?
As a bad thing. Oh, see, now that's a whole nother.
When that's how God designed them.
Hey, that's a whole nother conversation,
Yeah,
and I'm down
yeah.
to have that conversation
I'm just
because
saying,
a woman being able to be vulnerable is a strong thing, but they don't see that though. But we ain't gonna talk about that. Right?
Yeah. So
No,
my
we're
thing
not
is,
talking about vulnerability though. I want to talk about vulnerability. But Toby, you have something to say?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Oh, sorry.
my thing is the phrase "man up," right? It's something that is part of our culture as men that we use and we understand, right? To summon up your strength and whatever it is that you're going to face, attack it, conquer it, do what you got to do, things like that. I understand. That is something within our culture that we've understood. You brought up, Joshua brought up like, Shaolin monks, they have a phrase that they use, right? To tell themselves, okay, you know what, gather your strength to do whatever you need to do to be able to handle whatever it is you need to handle, right? So my question is, why is it us in our culture that we have to change what we are saying to gather ourselves and encourage ourselves to be the best that we're supposed to be? Why do it's not like we're saying do not be women. We're just saying you're a man, be a man. Hear me out. For example, like, there are a lot of phrases that women tell themselves and stuff like that. The only reason why I'm bringing it up is because women, they're very, very good at encouraging each other and letting them know, hey, you know what? For example, girl power. Does that mean there's no man power? No, girl power. Empowering you. Do what you got to do, girl. Yes, sis. Yes, honey. Yeah, go, girl. That's what they tell each other. They don't say don't be a man. They say girl power, right? So be a man. We're encouraging ourselves too. So why do we have to change what we're saying? Right?
I have some people already commenting. So Jacqueline Terrell said, as a woman, I'm not offended when you say women are soft. Okay. Toby's a little excited. Victoria Hogan said, exactly. Women have to stop looking at soft as a bad thing. And then real life Houston, Texas said, is softness the same as vulnerability? As a culture, we have clouded the meaning of words, right? So Roger Houston said, gender bending can't compete with human nature. Society can't explain your identity. On the other hand, I'm not reading this right, on the one that created you, which is God Almighty. So that society cannot explain your identity on the one that created you, which is God Almighty. So Verdell says, being soft versus vulnerability are two different things. A woman needs to be able to trust a man for her to be vulnerable to him. Okay. Who has any response to all of this comment that just came in?
I got a response.
Okay.
So being soft as a woman is very inviting for me. So let's say I go outside just real quick, kill a bear. After I kill a bear, I'll go ahead and come back inside. I need someone to nurse my wounds. That's what I need. I don't need somebody to chest bump me and be like, that's what I'm talking about, boy. You killed that bear.
I don't think that's a toxic masculinity we're talking about, though.
Okay, let's talk about it. What is toxic? Because before just 24 hours ago, I thought toxic masculinity was bad male egos, beating women,
right.
shooting people for no reason. That's what I thought it was. Only to find out, I go read I read like a list and I saw all these things. I'm like, wow, I'm a toxic male, and I never, So it's like this conversation was happening behind my back. I didn't know that these ideals have now become toxic. I didn't know that.
Well, but that's what I was.
Based on what you sent to me, Shola, let me say this and let me read this. So it says behaviors of toxic masculinity. You sent this to me, Shola, yesterday.
Yeah,
This is number 5, and it says condemning anything feminine within another man or equating affection for another man as being sexually attracted to that other person. So anything feminine, condemning anything feminine in another person, another man, is toxic. So that's what it's saying.
Well,
So
it's not. It's
Okay, put
what,
yeah.
well, it's not. It is what society has deemed as toxic. It's not. Masculinity is masculinity. Like I said when we first got on, they put toxic in front of it because they want to make masculinity a bad thing nowadays. Like I said, you don't hear toxic femininity. You just don't. At least I've never heard it.
So, Kuni, before
I haven't either.
okay, so you guys, before this conversation, have any of you heard of toxic masculinity? Before this conversation, have you heard of toxic masculinity? You've all heard of it?
Yeah.
I guess where I'm coming from is if we continue to go along with this narrative or this identifiers or saying things like, oh, man up, I keep going back to that because that really hit me. I feel like if we keep going back to that and raising young boys that way, then they start to see women as possessions.
No way. It doesn't equate.
I don't equate that. Yeah, I don't equate that at all.
Well, hold on.
I don't see how that correlates at all.
But hold on. If you go back to
that's called a fallacy in argument.
But if you go back to
that's not good.
Okay, who wants to say something?
I think Joe has something.
I want to mention
Joe and Kuni. Joe.
I think Josh, I believe it's Joshua, made a good point when he says that, the world evolves, things change, this, that, and the third. The thing is that when we're talking about raising young men, when you're raising your child, you are usually the role model. And based on what they see you do is what they will consider what man up means. So if I'm telling my son and I tell my son, man up, his standard of manning up will be dependent on what I have taught him to look like. So from my perspective, as long as I'm doing my part and telling him the right way to be masculine and the whatever that means. If I'm doing my part and teach him the right way to go about things, hey, don't abuse women. If don't look down on anybody else. This, that, and the third. Then he will know what dad means when dad comes and say, hey, I need you to man up here. Because he sees what dad does and he realized that if the way dad will handle things is what man up means, then that's what he equates to. Because as we have all kind of come to an understanding is that word is very broad and can have many different definitions. So you get the opportunity as a father to define that for your child. So I don't think the term is the issue. It's us. If there is an issue, then it will probably be how we're raising them to understand that term. But the term of I think it's good to go.
That's very powerful, Joe. And Toby, I'll come to you, but let me read this comment. Let me read this comment from Roderick Houston. He said, I don't have a son. A man up is an external man-made identity. Encouraging your son to be a man is nothing more than teaching him how to walk in the identity that he was born in. If women are digging too deep into requesting an explanation for man up, maybe try to find out how to emasculate Black boys at a young age. Is that what you're trying to say, Roderick? Don't question us, man. Question God if you dare. A human is born with a distinction. End of story. Okay, Roderick, we know where you stand.
Amen.
Well, let me go to Toby and then I'll come to you.
What did the guy say about what did he say about questioning God?
Oh, he said, don't question God. Like God made it that way, right? God made man like that way and woman the way he did. So don't question God by trying to question someone telling their son to man up, essentially. So let me go to Toby and then Joshua and then come back to you, Puni. Toby, you wanted to say something?
Say something.
Who wanted to say something?
Puni wanted to say something before. Yeah, he was going to say
Oh,
something.
Puni. Okay, Puni. Yeah, let's hear from you, Puni. I'm sorry. I thought it was Toby first.
Well, when I believe a lot of this, I call it crap that's going on nowadays. It stems from, well, that's a better word for right now. But it stems from feminism. That is where it stems from. Women wanted power, and y'all got it. Y'all definitely have it. But the problem with it is, with the power that women have gained from feminism, y'all have basically single-handedly messed up what men have created. Now y'all are in
Puni, you're like,
y'all are,
woo! Please, go ahead. Go
Hey,
ahead. I'll let you fly.
the
I'll let you
views
fly.
that are being expressed are not that of everybody.
You know what?
Yeah, that point.
You know what? I respect you, Puni, and I love it.
No, it's good. It's good. It's
Going,
good.
Puni. I want to hear it. Like, fly away with it. Go with it. I want to hear it. Sounds really good.
okay. Women being in control is not a good thing. If you look back at the past 15, 20 years of women being in control of their children, being in control of their own lives, if you look at it, look at what has happened with, okay, over the past 15, 20 years since women would y'all agree that women typically are the head of household?
In black communities,
Not on my case.
Nah, not on my watch.
I think in African American communities, like it's a lot of them for sure.
Okay, let's go with African American communities, since we're all African American.
If we're saying single, then
What's that?
if we're saying in regards to single mothers, probably.
Yeah.
Well,
Which is
I mean,
what I mean.
I would say there's, according to the stats that I got from, I would say Tommy Sotomayor.
Okay.
It's 70% of black homes are raised by single mothers.
That's true. That's actually very true.
Okay, so that is correct. Look at how much crap is going on in the black community with just single mothers, the gun violence, the out of wedlock births, and I've heard that the abortion rate is through the roof. I haven't looked up those stats myself, but
1,000 kids a day, 1,000 black kids every day.
Wow.
That's
So having said that, why is it that basically since women have been in control, since feminism has given them, or since they've earned or taken power, why is it that there's so much crap that they have caused themselves since they've been in control of the children?
We get it. Pretty. So I see where you're going. And you know what? I'm going to have to go someone else to comment on that. I think let's go with Toby. Toby wants to comment on that because I exactly, we see where you're going with this. I know your point. So Toby, do you want to comment?
Yes, I do.
Wait, before you comment, Toby, actually, someone just said, Puni, who is your...
I'm sorry if I was rambling, but go ahead.
They comment. And then one more person said, some of these comments kind of seem to parallel and remind me of the argument between those who don't understand why it's okay to be black and proud, but not white and proud. Okay, Verdell trying to ruffle them feathers. Toby, so you wanted to say something?
Yeah, so we can't really speak about our society today in relation to black homes without understanding the history of what's going on in our communities. You know what I mean? You know, the school to black, obviously the schools to prison chain. You know, it's like next stop you're going to jail for some strange reason. You see what I'm saying? Like mind you, like I said, Joshua's raised in Chicago. I'm a South Sider, so we know how it is. We know. You know what I'm saying? I see it every day. I've been to school, so we kind of sort of know how it is. So I'm not going to point the blame to Black women or women in general because there's a lot that goes into it, right? Just as much as women have the choice to do this or to do that. Women can't get pregnant on their own. Somebody has to impregnate them, and it's not another woman, right? So we also have to, just as much as we want them to be accountable for their actions, we got to be accountable for our own, because just as much as there's a really, really high rate between, especially if you're going to consider white houses versus Black houses versus if you're going to consider single family homes, we have to consider this is West Side. But yeah, we really have to consider what is the root of it. Just as much as they have decisions, we have decisions too as men, right? As much as we say, okay, you know what we're doing is wrong and potentially take us to jail, but because of what we want to do or prove to our friends or to our hood or to our friends or to people or our community, we do this and it end up in bad situations, which what happens to end, put our Black women in bad situations where guess what? They're young and they're trying to raise your child by themselves because the man that's supposed to be there to assist in this process is in prison or is not in the picture, or he wasn't prepared to.
He's not man enough.
Yeah, exactly. He's not to take care of kids at that moment in time, right? And the abortion rate is pretty much is almost a testament to that, right? How many people are getting so many people are getting pregnant, right, or impregnating women that aren't prepared to take care of the child afterwards. You see what I'm saying? So it's not even just about women making decisions and it being a problem of women and their power. It's a matter of, okay, you know what, us as men, Black men are the ones impregnating them. So there's a balance.
So we have good point. So we have a lot of comment in response to what Puni said, right? So Elena, this is Joe's fiance. She said there is no sorry to put it out like that. I just thought it was so beautiful. So she said there is no correlation between women destroying what men created and single mothers. Who creates a single mother? The man, like Toby is saying. His exact statement is what makes people say man up. So now Yolanda said, so that's our fault. That's women's fault. Puni, I feel men have to take some responsibility. In any sentence, all is an untrue statement. Is that what you're trying to say, Yolanda? Black men need to stop blaming Black women. Hold on. Black men need to stop blaming Black women. We are not the only race that blame the Black women. Everything is our fault. Please.
Let me say this.
First off, I never said all.
It's getting hot.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. When you come Edward, you, then Joshua, then Puni, and then next question, because I have another question to ask you guys.
Okay, I just kind of want to bring some clarity and some perspective to this because I think we kind of getting off topic just a little bit. But I will say, as a Libra, I always definitely try to strike a balance. So what I can say on behalf of Puni is that, well, first, again, I can't agree that women mess up the world or our community in terms of leadership because, again, that's an indictment on us as Black men because we are the ones who are absent, and so we as a people we rise or fall together, and so that's a collective situation, and we are just as much responsible for the failure of the Black household by being absent. However, the feminist movement, which was started by white women who were really being oppressed by their men. Black women jumped on that bandwagon and was fighting for liberation from a situation where there was really no oppression in the first place. And so when things are ill-defined, when we take on struggles that are not ours, when we allow other people to control the narrative, we always end up losing on the losing end of that.
Joshua, what do you have to say?
But again, in defense of Black women, again, you look around the world, even ancient societies, where we go back to the queens, to the Candace dynasty, or Queen Nzinga, or Yah Sante Wa, right? Women can rule and rule well, So I can't rubber stamp that that idea. But I can say that that feminism as a whole, in terms of the movement, has been much more detrimental to us as a culture than it has helped
Thank you.
us.
I agree with that.
So yeah. Outside of that, I want to just end by saying we have to get back to the reality that we just have to define things for ourselves, and whatever we call it. If you don't want to say man up anymore, that's cool, right? But in African societies, we have what's called a rites of passage. We still taught men how to be men and women how to be women, and how we teach each of them is still different. So whatever that means for you is what it means, but you can't discount masculinity or femininity because they both have their place. And they're both healthy and bring balance, and it's how God created and designed things.
That's what I'm trying to interject.
Yeah. So when I see my son and going through his rites of passage, he's doing things that I think is really, you're not. Again, we just have to define for ourselves how we teach our kids, and how we teach young boys, how we teach young girls to be men and to be women. We do know that we teach them differently, and so we can't be afraid to say, no, that's kind of womanly. That's not really your role. You need to be doing this. You need to be doing this. And again, I'm not the final authority on what that looks like. I'm only saying that men and women are taught differently for a reason, because we are designed differently, and that's okay.
Okay, Edward. I'm gonna Joshua Edward, because we're running out of time. So Joshua, you wanted to make a comment, but well said, Edward. People are echoing your thoughts in the comments.
No, I agree with he said. I'm actually going to surmise everything I was going to say, but I think Toby mentioned it, and we all mentioned it. We just have to really, especially for African Americans, right? And I know a lot of us are Nigerian here or whatever, or African, but for African Americans, if we have to really stop and realize the damaging effects of slavery, and what happened was the man was, belittled and demasculated, and we were taken out of position, and we were not allowed to get jobs and provide the way we wanted to provide. And so then women, somebody said it, women, even though they weren't oppressed by black men, they were still dating men and clinging to men who were oppressed. So they had to then step up and wear this quote unquote masculine energy, which is not fair for them that they have to wear it, but they're doing it well now. Not necessarily wearing the masculine energy, but taking over and rising to the top, because obviously we look around, black women are doing their thing. So at some point, we both have to realize that we both got the short end of the stick, and we got to come face to face to each other, even right now, and say, yo, this is what happened to us. Like, let's figure out a way to move forward. Like, let's figure out a way to make this work and move forward. Because right now, you got so many black women winning and making 2-3 times as much as black men. And so they're not going to find a lot of dudes that's making what they're making. But if we want to preserve our communities, you got to meet a man that's still a leader and still allow him to lead the household, even though you might be making the bank, until we find a way to level this thing out and have kids being raised in 2-parent homes. So it's a trickle-down effect. I want to be clear that I don't blame women, and nor do I blame men. I just think that we were given a bullshit hand, and we've been playing it the best that we know how, and we got to figure out a way to win together. And so I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, well said.
Well said. Well said. Well said.
Honey, do you want to add to that, or you're done?
Me?
Yeah. Do you want to add to that? Because I knew you wanted to say something earlier.
Well, I was trying to reply to the comment where the girl said that, basically I said all women, and I never said all. When I say women, I'm speaking in general. That I believe, from what I've seen, whether it's TV or personally in my own life, that women should not be solely in charge of major things, which is raising kids,
and
raising kids mainly. But that's what's going on today. So if y'all want to talk mainly black community, that's fine. So mainly in the black community, women are the dictators. They raise the children. And as far as, the black man having some blame in it, well, yeah, you can say the black man has blame in it, but the women, they decide who they sleep with. They decide if they make whoever they're sleeping with wear protection. They decide if they want to be on the pill. So this is what I'm saying about women being in control. They make bad decisions. I'm going to say pretty much across the board, because if women are getting pregnant by these no good men, they have the control to completely change that. If they're on the pill, they won't get pregnant by these no good men. And
I love giving you a chance to talk, Winnie, because you are just entertaining and uncensored, and I love it. I love it. I love your transparency, and I'm hearing what you're saying. But I can't say I agree with it. Let me see who else wants to cut. Toby, you want to comment? Toby, you wanted to say something? Let's keep it brief because we're almost running out of time, and I have other questions.
Let me say this real quick, just real quick.
Oh, wait, hold on. Let Puni talk. Yeah, sorry, Puni.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm not a misogynist. I'm just speaking on what I see with my own eyes. Like, I'm not just making this stuff up. Yeah, do I kind of have a dislike for a lot of women? Well, yes, I do, because I see what they've done. But I'll back up and stop and let somebody else get on. But go ahead. Sorry.
You were hitting things up. Like, women are commenting. Toby, what do you want to say? Keep it brief, please, because we're almost out of time and have other questions.
So I kind of need to have a man-to-man conversation right now. I kind of need to have a man-to-man conversation. Because Puni, I feel like we gonna understand each other, right? So the only reason why I say that is because we're all human. Nobody's perfect, right?
Yes.
Right. So the thing about it is, I'm not the type of person to say, okay, you know what? Because this person, could have done this but didn't. Does that make them a bad person? Not necessarily a better or worse person. I wouldn't say that. But what I'm going to say is, just as much as a woman has the power to say or has the decision, it's like, you know what, I want to sleep with this man versus I don't want to, just as much as the man does as well. If he wants to use protection and not get her pregnant, he can do so as well. So just I'm not, like I said, we're not blaming anybody, but there's a responsibility on both ends, right? So what I'm going to say is, this is something that we both have to understand from just as much as men and just as much as women. You know what? We're in this situation, right? What are we going to do to move ourselves forward, right? Because like the idea of, oh, okay, you know what? Because she's the idea or mentality of, because a woman is this, a woman is that they're more than likely going to make a better decision versus a man. I don't particularly agree with that, because there are women that are obviously doing their thing out there, which is great. And I just want us to be able to understand the fact that, okay, you know what, everybody can make mistakes, nobody's perfect, but the goal as of right now, from what I'm trying to understand, is just as much as we're talking amongst ourselves, but we can educate ourselves and be able to understand, okay, you know what, this is how we our mindset was here, but let's think about it and then shift our mindset more towards here, more towards a positive thing, because what I'm hearing is your experiences obviously are valid to your experience in your environment, right? We're coming from the environment. So what I'm saying is, you can't, like, for example, you cannot see behind your screen, or you can't see behind you. We will tell you what's behind you, right? So let us be able to do that for you, so you can be able to tell, you know what, you may see this as, this situation as this, but you can also see it as this, like, well, okay, understand that maybe she made this decision that wasn't the greatest for her at the time, or the children at the time, but guess what? Now that we've seen this, what are we going to do to make it happen again for the future? That's kind of sort of where I'm coming from.
So we're gonna stop there, you guys. I know everybody has comments and sentiment. I just want to read this comment to give myself a compliment. Rodrigue said, "Sis Nia, you facilitated an awesome dialogue among the brothers." Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I always wanted to have this conversation, and it's happening. So I have other questions to ask, but we're running out of time. So I'm going to shift this a little bit. I put out a post on Instagram asking people that I'm going to have a group of powerful, intellectual Black men together. And I asked them to ask their questions. And so we had some questions that came in. So it's going to be a little different from the topic of, masculinity and whatnot, or maybe it's not. So this is a question from Verdell, and she's on here. She said, again, we're shifting gears, you guys, so stay with us. Why do Black men respect other women more than the Black woman? Black men are quick to call a Black woman the B word and say she has an attitude and etc. I want to hear you guys respond to that.
I'll take the lead on that real quick, because again, for me, it's just all about the culture. We can't pick and choose. Again, this is the same situation. We can't pick, it's because it's double standards here. We can't pick and choose when we want to be respected when the whole time we are disrespecting ourselves. And so, like I said again, for me, the culture itself has a lot of toxicity, not just the masculine aspect of this. We have a culture where a woman willingly calls herself a B or an H. Well, they have a whole song out right now called WAP, right? Talking about this, with the song we're saying.
Cardi B.
Yeah. So we live in so we create like a hypersexual reality where women are starting to become more concerned about likes and shares and Instagram fame. So you more concerned about who's looking at you as opposed to how many people are looking at you as opposed to how many people are respecting you. And it's the same thing with men, right? We call ourselves dogs and niggas, right? So anytime you have a people who they define themselves in the most derogatory terms, and that becomes the terms of endearment, that is a toxic culture in and of itself. So until we address what's wrong with the culture and this self-hate and how we identify each other and ourselves, then black women can't just say we respect them, we respect ourselves. So until we get to respecting each other again, loving each other, building each other up, and not tearing each other down, you're gonna see a whole lot more of the same. Just go back to what Carter G. Woodson said, right? He said, you control how a person think, you control their actions. And if you make a person feel inferior, you don't have to tell them they got to go out the back door. They'll make a back door, basically. And if there's none there, they'll demand that you put one there. And so we have an inferior, kind of an inferior culture in the sense that there's just a lot of self-hate, and you can hear it in the language and how we address each other, both men and women. So yeah, so there's a balance there. We just respect ourselves and them. So yeah.
Okay, well said. Joe, I want to hear from you, and you can tie this into the comment you were going to make before I cut it off. I apologize. So what do you have to say about all of that? The question, the sentiment in the open?
So earlier, it won't really be directly answering this question because, to be honest with you, this question kind of comes as a surprise to me. Never really had the thought process that African-American male respect one race of female more than the African-American female. That just never been something that really I observe. And maybe the thing is just we interact with each other a lot more, so there's more opportunities for us to have disagreements. But that's just that. So I'll kind of let Edward touch up on that. But for earlier, all I wanted to say was basically, I agree with Joshua and Edward that we've just been dealt a bad hand, and we try to work with what we have. But the reality is that if we want to call ourselves man, and part of being quote unquote masculine is being a leader, then if anybody has to take the blame, I just have a hard time thinking that why won't it be us? Then why will us as men we call ourselves leader and then we want to say female are the reason why the black community is not prospering? If you're a leader, you gotta take the blame for the what's going on for what you're leading. That's just it is. That's just how it is. That's how I view things, and that's what I wanted to
Very well said. I want to go to Shola. I haven't heard from you, Shola. I want to hear your wisdom.
Yeah. Well, I agree with Joe that I haven't seen that us as a culture will respect another race of woman over our women. I don't know if I've seen that, but I have seen something like where men will become successful and then choose to go with a woman from another race. Right? You see both though. You see, to me it's just preference. If somebody prefers a woman that looks a certain way and talks a certain way, that's just what they prefer, If they prefer a sister, then be with a sister, that's fine. But if there's something else tied into that, if there's like something else where you're saying, I don't trust black women, or I think other women are better than black women, then I think that's a whole different issue. Like that in itself is separate because most of us come from black women. You understand? So there's some things that we probably need to work with to find out what is really going on. Or if it's just a preference, then it's just a preference. If you say she looks beautiful to me and that's who I want to be with, then nothing wrong with that.
Why do I feel, Shola, like you're giving a sugar-coated response? Because I know back in the day, when I was younger, we used to be like, why is that black men don't like black women? All I see, like, basketball players' hands are like white women, like trophy-looking women. Like, why? So
I'm saying, so
I gotta be upfront. Joshua, I want to hear.
No, so at times, there's a type of man there's a type of man that will look at that as an upgrade because whatever he's went through inside his environment, that's what he's always saw. He always saw a Cadillac, or he always saw these kind of things that were homely to him. So then when he gets to a different level, he wants a Mercedes. He no longer wants a domestic car. He wants a foreign car. So he kind of gets into this place where I'm going to leave the hood. I'm not going to be in the hood. I'm not going to do nothing. I want more access. I want to see how far I can go in this life as an American, and being a Black American, I probably can get into more things with a woman that is not from the hood, or a woman that doesn't look like me. So at times you see that does happen. But for the most part, if a man wants to see Black excellence, then he won't betray. And I know that's what a lot of women feel like. They feel betrayed. And so if he wants to see Black excellence, then for the most part, he'll stick to what he was taught, what was ingrained in him.
Joshua, before you go, I just want to say, like, me saying that is like, I have nothing against interracial love, you guys, but I think Raquel just really talks about what I'm thinking. She said, hello, nothing wrong with interracial love, but the issue is when it's seen as an upgrade, right? I think that's what I was trying to echo and address. So Joshua, do you want to say something to that?
Yeah, and I'm also like really afraid that I might offend some women, but I'm just gonna be real, like, or what I feel.
Okay.
I think that we're on this panel talking about toxic masculinity in men, but we're not talking about the toxic masculinity in women, and that same masculinity that comes from the environment where we're talking about that single mother raising that soft boy or that disrespectful boy. But what about that single mother that's raising that woman that does have an attitude, but however, that attitude, she doesn't even understand where it stems from, but she was raised thinking, I don't need no man. I don't need nobody. I can do this by myself. So now you have all this toxic energy inside of you. You've developed toxic masculinity. And what happens is men, technically, most Black dudes, my homies, the people I know, we don't really be tripping that much. Men are pretty simple. But when we try to talk to you guys or court you guys, and I haven't experienced this since I've been a little older, but I'm going to speak from age of like 12 to 22, and you run up on a sister and she like, I don't want to, if she went a lot of, I'm not saying other races don't, but I'm talking about my sisters. They do have these attitudes and they get this stereotype as an angry Black woman. I just think that we have to stop. Sometimes women have to stop, just like men have to stop and say, wait a minute, why am I so upset all the time? Or why do I only see the negative when people approach me? Or why can't I trust myself to do, to be a soft, like we talked about earlier, or more vulnerable when it comes to these spaces? And so, I just wanted to speak to that part about the Black woman. So what happens is, a lot of times when a man, it doesn't have to be for another race, when a man leaves a woman and that woman has a better attitude about life in general, and she can see herself a lot better, and she's a lot more vulnerable and willing to be soft, and she can do that all within strength, it technically is an upgrade. And unfortunately, like, sometimes it's a dude leaving for another race, but it's always not a dude leaving for another race. Now, I want to go on record saying that I only love sisters. Like, I love them. Hey, let me be clear. But just being 100, women do at times, and my Black women at times have these attitudes, and what they end up running into so many busters that it gets worse the older they get, and it's like, damn, you lost before you even started the race, because you either learned from a woman who had a bad attitude, or you picked up this attitude and you developed it over the course of your life. And so, yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. Sorry.
Well said, Joshua. Who else wants to comment? Edward? Wait,
I got it.
Edward, hold that thought. Sorry, I want to hear from Puni. Puni, what are you thinking?
You really want to know?
The people want to
I do want to know. That's why I asked you. I do want to know.
I'm just going to say the truth is, and it's not my opinion, it's the truth. Everybody sees it now, whether they want to admit it or not, it's the truth. Typically, who gives you bad service in public, restaurants, or over the phone? You call for, the bank, or you call anything. Who do you typically get bad service from? I mean,
Drink to
not
that.
everybody at once. I mean, who do you typically get bad service from?
Drink to that.
Pony, you need your own talk show, bro. I'm telling you.
If
For
we-
real.
For sure.
Wait, Joshua, your mic is a little low. If you want to increase it or try, adjusting it a little low. But oh my God, Puni. All right, go in, Puni. I'll let you go.
Okay, so
Let him rock.
If we're only talking
Typically-
about Puni's, right?
and look, I'm probably one of the most honest, trustworthy, upfront people that you'll probably ever meet. I'm 45 years old.
That's true.
At this point in my life, I don't play games. I don't BS anybody. I am engaged to a white woman.
Okay.
Have I dated black girls in the past? Of course I have. I dated Asian girls, all of them. So I don't typically care about ethnicity. I have a preference, of course. My preference is skinny white women. Why? Because where I grew up in Sugarland, that's what I mostly saw. So you typically get your bad service and attitudes typically from black women. Yes, I've seen it from Hispanic women and I've seen it from white women, but typically, and that's why all y'all laugh, because it's black women. Why is that? I would say it's because it's what they've been taught, and it's because typically they've been raised by an angry single black mother. From what I've seen with my own eyes, I'm not making this up. I'm sure y'all have seen it.
No, I gotta back him up on that.
Okay, Shala.
I'm not gonna let you be on this on your own, man.
Coming for you in the comments.
Yeah. I'm not gonna let Pooty take this on by himself. So come on now, our people, we gotta do better. We know that. That doesn't mean that everybody that's a black female is giving bad service. That's obviously, we know that, but
That's true.
there's enough. It happens enough for it to be a stereotype, and so.
Yes.
Instead of us ignoring it and saying, "Well, I don't want to touch that," no, let's touch it and let's fix it. Just like we're being held accountable for being masculine men and some of the things that we can fix. Then all of us as a people need to look at what we're doing and say, why is it that we're doing this and how can we change it? Is good service a good thing, or is it not a good thing? And if it is a good thing, well, then let's fix that. Let's get better customer service.
Yeah.
And then let that not be something that can be named amongst us. Let's throw that away.
Right. Well said. Okay.
So I want to say two things real quick. So yeah, so the first thing I want to touch on is again, I can go to bat for 22. Usually when you got bad service, you can count how many other outside of the race that you were displeased. But we also have to put in historical context. The reality is the reason why coronavirus, this COVID thing, affected Black and Hispanic communities the most is because we occupy the majority of the jobs where in terms of service industries, right? So if Black women are the majority of people on their feet all day long serving you, more than likely the average is going to be you're going to run into a bad experience with them before you run into a skinny white girl a bad experience, because they don't wait on the tables as often as a sister would. So to be fair, we have to look at who occupies the majority of the jobs in that industry, and so that means the probability is not in favor of a Black woman. You're going to get a bad experience probably from them before you get it from anybody else. Now moving on, because I want to talk about the last topic, which I kind of lost my train of thought because Puni is so man. But look, hey man, one thing about you, bro, you speak your truth, man, and it brings a nice balance.
It does. It really does. It really does.
And again, it's a voice that needs to be heard. So what I do disagree with about you, Miss Neil Black, is this. It seems that y'all are trying to tie in Black men deciding to date outside of the race as disrespect to Black women, right? And that's not a correlation. If a man decides when he make a little money that he want to get something different, then that's his choice. But when we're talking about disrespect, I have never seen a man who's disrespectful is going to disrespect anyone. If I'm a dog, I'm gonna cheat on a white woman or an Asian woman just because I'm gonna cheat on a black woman. So
Yeah.
I don't. So you can't relate disrespecting black women to a brother deciding to marry somebody different. If that makes sense.
No, that's true. That makes I hear you. I hear what you're saying.
A disrespectful man is a disrespectful man. He don't disrespect everyone.
Right.
He don't pick and choose.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. So Joshua, then I have to ask my final question because we got around. So if you guys have things to do, right? Joe has things to do. You have things to do.
Toby
has things to do. Joshua, yeah, and then we round this off.
No, Toby, go ahead.
Okay, Toby.
Yeah, because I really wanted to touch in on the idea that men dating outside, black men dating outside of the race is kind of sort of seen as they're betraying black women. Okay, I just want to put something into context, right? The more successful a man is, the less likely, for example, let me put this into example, right? If there's a woman, right, that is in a good industry making good money, it's very, very the probability that she's going to meet a black man that is of equal standard or greater, it's ridiculously smaller in comparison, right? So the picking that she has is a lot smaller. So it's already hard for a black woman to find a legit, strong, powerful and a really good black man, right? It's already hard. But then now that she's at this level, it becomes exponentially harder because the picking that she had is so small, right? So now the idea that after man got some money, what does he decide to do? He decides to go and date somebody of a different background where there's already plenty of men for her to pick from, but so now she got to pick from the little pot that we have to pick from as a black woman. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to touch in on that just so we all understand from a woman's perspective. Because I've had this conversation before, right? But I don't want to miss. But the part that I don't agree with is when women or when black women feel like it's an upgrade because of attitude, or like I said, everybody's in a part of their environment, right? Just as much as I have, I'm from the south side of Chicago, so I've seen great, I've seen bad attitudes as well. For example, he's from Sugarland. That's his environment. He sees mostly white women there, and that's fact. That's what his environment is. So you can't really point fingers at somebody because of their environment, right? But no, I've never really seen I don't really see black men that date outside of their race or of their background coming out and say, okay, you know what? I dated her because I don't like black women. Nobody does that. You know what I mean? If they say, hey, you know what? I've experienced this and it's different now that I'm with her. Guess what? If he dated a black woman and said, you know what? I'm marrying another black woman. Why? Because it's different with her. I'm not gonna, we can't make the generalization that all black women are stubborn and have bad attitudes. Well, obviously not. But sometimes you have to consider the character of the woman that he's moving on to. You see what I'm saying? And it's the same when it comes to men. Because just as much as, for example, I can't think of a man that has, who used to date a black woman that's moved on to a white woman before. But the only person I can think of that's a woman that moved on from black man to white man, off the top of my head, is Serena. And I know internet went up in flames because it was like, oh my God, how can she do this to us? How she can go and marry a white man and stuff like this? But guess what? Her experiences on that level with black men were positive ones, and he just happened to come along and be different. So her experiences from her perspective was different. That's all I wanted to say.
Good, well said. So I'm gonna close this out slowly. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Look at Edward is like agreeing. We're like literally 1 hour 30 minutes in. I know you guys have stuff to do, but I just want to.
I got time.
No, I don't have time.
She's like, I don't have time.
So I want to just hear final comments from all of you before we close this out. Final comments about all of this, the questions that were asked, and the topic. For those of you who commented, I appreciate you guys. So I could not read all the comments. We're time restricted. So final words from each person. We can start from Shola going that way up, and then close this out.
All right, let's do it. So as far as manhood, I just want to encourage the men who are growing up or don't, they're kind of on the fence. It's always better to find your most masculine self. Whether people agree with that or not, always find your most masculine self. Also, to the women, if you choose the more masculine man, you'll be more protected. You'll be, you know what I mean? These things, you can expect that because this man is prepared for everything. He's prepared for financial crisis. He's prepared for if somebody breaks into your home. And so, if this is my sales pitch, I'm telling you, be masculine, choose masculine, vote masculine.
Yeah.
All right, Joshua.
Yeah, I mean, I echo what he says. There's nothing toxic about. I mean, let me say it this way: masculinity is like a gun. In the hand of the wrong person, it becomes toxic. In the hand of the right person, it's a good weapon. So I'm gonna leave it at that.
Wow, well said. Sunny?
Okay. I wanted to touch on a little bit what he was saying about black women and or black men and white women feel like an upgrade. Is it okay if I mention that real quick?
Yeah, real quick. Yeah, of course.
Okay. I feel like it's or I know it's more of you have more options if you become financially successful. Your options open up. Like if you don't have money, well, and you're raising just say the hood, well, typically you're gonna drive a not expensive car. You're gonna date the black women that are there and your environment. But when you become a millionaire, well, that opens up everything. So you have more options. I think that's one of the things. Like I don't remember anybody saying anything when Serena Williams dated a white guy, or Janet Jackson, or oh god, what was the one girl's name that I can't remember? She was a rapper with Eve when she married a white guy. I don't remember anybody saying anything to them. It's always the black man. Like it's I don't know why we're looked at as such the bad guys. The things are our fault. But anyways, I really enjoyed this conversation. I would like to have another discussion on it at some point. And thank you for letting me have the chance to be on here. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
I appreciate you. Joe?
Sure. Nia, first of all, just thank you for the opportunity. It was very interesting to hear from everybody in the comments. They took what I was going to say, but if I can say anything different, I'll just say, let's all, male and female, appreciate what God has put in us as our strength, and use that to kind of mold each other to the better version of whatever that is. Instead of spending too much time talking about what toxic masculinity is, let's talk about what good masculinity is. What's the right way to go about it? And so I think if the focus is on that, then he sheds a greater light on the good than the bad. So that's really all that I'm going to say. Just I don't think masculinity is bad, and if we can all focus on the right way to go about it, then we'll see the positivity behind it. Appreciate it.
Well said. Thank you. Edward?
Yes, ma'am. I want to echo the same sentiments. Thank you for creating this platform. I think that it should be a series. We just scratched the surface of this thing. But I just want to leave the audience with this. We are definitely at war, and we can't just think that because we weren't, we weren't descendants of the enslaved over here, that we don't have similar issues. Because in reality, colonialism did to Africa in 50 years, what slavery did to us over here in 400 years. And so, right now on the African continent, that more bleaching creams are sold in Africa than any other place in the world, right? So again, we have all these signs of self-hate that's global, not just over here, black folks in America. So what I'm saying is this: we need to change the dynamic, change the culture, and stop using the definitions of the slave master and the colonial master as definitions for ourselves and how we define ourselves and how we love ourselves. There's a lot of great literature out there, from Carter G. Woodson to Naeem Akbar to Anthony Browder to Dr. John Henry Clark. We have our own scholars and historians and psychologists A lot of great literature. We need to start reading, re-educating ourselves, having better knowledge of self, and start loving ourselves. And so, but I definitely look forward to another panel like this. Great information, and like I said, I hope I added some value.
Thank you, Edward. Toby, before you go, I wanted to say those in the comments, if you're loving this conversation, put the clap emoji. Let's see it to encourage the guests, because I'm loving this too. Toby, final thoughts?
I'm gonna hopefully I'm gonna try to make this quick as possible, because I want to say one thing. I do want to say is something that I've learned. Number one is just as much as there is there could potentially be toxic masculinity in men, there could be toxic masculinity in women. I didn't really think about it until it was brought up. That's all I just learned now. So that's one thing I learned. And one thing I did want to say, another thing I wanted to say was, just as much as masculinity is seen as something that is manly, something that there's a portion of femininity that's in men as well. Just as much as in women, there's femininity just as much as masculinity. So there's just a balance. We have to understand our balance. But there's one thing that I really wish we could have spoke about, which was vulnerability. But we didn't. Hopefully, that's going to be a topic of a different day we can be able to speak on.
Yeah.
But I want us, and just to encourage all of us, especially as men, to be able to have a circle of other men, other like-minded men that we can be able to be open, that we can open to, whether even though it's not our fathers, our friends, to be able to open up and share our struggles with our problems with, so we can be able to put our heads together and help ourselves move forward as a community, as a Black community. So that's all I would like.
No, yeah, that was going to be my second part, and I think I sent those questions to you guys about vulnerability. I really wanted to touch on it, being transparent, sharing those sentiments. But you guys, I appreciate you. Would you guys want to come back again for part 2? All of you, perhaps? No?
Yes.
Sure.
I don't mind coming, but it costs. It costs.
Okay, Toby's not coming, and we're okay with that. Okay, we are okay with that. Everyone, I wanted to say thank you so much. Even before we started today's session, I got comments saying, let's talk about toxic femininity as well. So we're going to also address that, so stay tuned. If you're following Nia Black Studios, I appreciate you guys. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube for sponsorship ads and guest appearances. Email niablackstudios@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for coming, you guys, to the panel. Don't forget, don't leave, okay? Even though I end the live, don't leave, stay here. I appreciate you guys. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you share it on Facebook, on YouTube, everywhere. Bye, guys.